Chapter 24 is on basketball. This is the first sport chapter of the 4 sports we are going to have on the final. Some people believe that you should not start anything with basketball until the 3rd grade, but I've seen some in 2nd grade where they just have the kids bouncing a playground ball. It definitely wouldn't be a basketball, but just getting them to bounce it and pass it and throw to a partner in individual dribbling and then partner to pass to them. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to wait till the 3rd grade to start doing these lead up skills with it. So on page 24, they kind of give you a summary of what we should do for basketball. And as I said earlier, I want you to know skill instruction for the actual game of basketball should be introduced primarily during the intermediate grades after the children have mastered the basic prerequisite skills, a little bit of bouncing the ball and passing the ball. So when you're teaching in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, you want to teach the rules, you want to teach strategy. This is a very important part of the instructional process of basketball. And you also want to have that proper progression. And you also want to have lead-up games. If you do not know how to play a game of basketball, that's okay. You can do all kinds of lead-up games to emphasize the development of the actual basketball skills without playing the game of basketball. I cannot emphasize that enough. So the game of basketball can be enjoyed by boys and girls. The thrill of making a basket, the joy of playing, the positive effects. It's all part of contributing to the total curriculum. So your basketball instruction in the elementary school should focus on the developing skills necessary to eventually play the game successfully if that's what they want to do. But it's also about participating and cooperation and working together. I can't emphasize enough to play lead-up games, as I said earlier, so that they can experience success and enjoyment. I want you to know the physical education setting, which does emphasize instruction and skill development, allows little time, I repeat, little time for regulation basketball games during the school hours. Do not play the regulation basketball games. You should focus on lead-up games so that they can eventually, if they like it, and they'll want to continue to play. So we can modify the equipment for the elementary school children. That's very important. I want you to know we can use smaller balls. We can lower the basket, the goal itself, so that it can help them with correct patterns. It will also increase their student success, and it will maintain motivation for them so they'll want to continue to play and be successful. Many times if the goal stays at the normal regulation height, the students develop bad habits in order to be able to reach that high of a goal, and then they have to correct that bad habit later on. So it can become challenging for them. Development level 2, page 613. As I said, little emphasis is placed on regulation basketball at development level 2, grades 3 and 4. I want you to know the 4 fundamentals of basketball: passing, catching, dribbling, and shooting. Passing, catching, dribbling, and shooting. I always like to ask the students what are the 4 fundamentals, what are the 4 main skills that they need to be successful in basketball. And every year, the students will say passing, shooting, and dribbling. They never consider catching a basketball as an important fundamental. But when you have a student who can't catch a ball, then you'll understand why catching is just as important as passing. Kind of like in football. The quarterback is only as good as the receiver makes him to be, whether the receiver can catch the ball. So they talk about lead up games in this chapter, birdies in the cage, circle, guard, and pass. These are examples of lead up games that they'll have fun playing and they'll be successful and they're learning the skills while doing so. If you look on page 613 on table 24.1, on the left-hand column, you have developmental level 2 skills in passing, catching, dribbling, and shooting that they should be able to do, as well as defending and stopping, as well as what knowledge they should know, the activities that they could play, and then the skills test. So your weekly plan, your lesson plan for a couple of weeks, it's spelled out for you right there. You just got to plan out your proper progression. The right side of the table is developmental level 3, and there they have a progression for passing compared to developmental level 2, catching, dribbling, shooting, and so on, just like we discussed earlier. And there's more knowledge involved in the 5th grade, more activities involved in 5th grade, and more skills tests for the 5th grade. For developmental level 3, you have several lead-up activities that you can introduce, such as shooting games like 21 or freeze out, sideline and captain basketball are some games in here that you could do. But the main thing I want you to know here is that in developmental level 3, grade 5, make sure the students continue practicing fundamental skills. Continue practicing fundamental skills. This is our goal. This is our job. This is what we want to do. Have them practicing fundamental skills, but having fun while they're doing it. So you have drills that actually enhance skill performance, and they have numerous drills in the book. And this is where you start teaching officiating so they'll appreciate the importance of a referee in a game. The basketball skills. So the first basketball skill we're going to discuss is passing. I want you to know, for passing, for firm control, you want to handle the ball with the thumb and finger pads, not the palm of your hands. Not the palms of your hands. They want to step in the direction of the person that's going to catch the ball. And I want you to know some instructional cues. They talk about the finger spread, elbows in. I want you to know that you need to step forward, extend your arms, rotate your hands slightly inward. Rotate your hands slightly inward. There's a picture of that on page 614. So, passing. Here are the different types of passes. So for the chest pass or the two-hand pass, I want you to know you should place one foot ahead of the other and then release the ball at the chest level. So you want to have a transfer of weight from one foot to the other, one foot ahead of the other for the chest pass. For the one-hand push pass, basically it's kind of like a baseball pass. For the bounce pass, I want you to know when you're bouncing a ball or when you're doing a bounce pass, you should bounce the ball a little bit more than halfway between you and the receiver of the pass so that it will rebound efficiently to the receiver. We talked about this back, I forget what chapter it was, earlier in the book. The angle that the ball hits the floor is the angle the ball's going to come up off the floor. Just like in tennis. If it's a high lob coming to you in tennis, the angle that tennis ball hits the tennis court, that's the angle it's going to come up. That's how high it's going to come up. Same thing with a bounce pass. The angle the basketball hits the basketball gym floor, that's the same angle that ball's going to come up off of it. And you want a bounce pass to be low, below the waist. The two-hand overhead pass, it's really good if you have a shorter opponent. A lot of people do this off of a rebound. Two-hand overhead pass. The second fundamental skill in basketball is catching. So I want you to know the instructional cues for catching. Move to the ball. Spread the fingers and catch with your fingertips. Reach for the ball and give with the ball. Remember we talked about that with bean bags and such, where you bring the ball into your chest. So catching. Make sure you move to the ball, spread your fingers, catch with the fingertips, reach for the ball, and give. What do we call it? Soft hand receipt. The third fundamental skill in basketball is dribbling. So I want you to know, we use dribbling to advance the ball or to break for a basket or to maneuver out of a difficult situation. Those are the three reasons why you want to dribble. To advance the ball down the court, to break for a basket, which means you're making 2 points or 3 points shot, or to get yourself out of a bind, out of a difficult situation. These are the three reasons why we dribble. They should practice with both hands. I strongly believe in that. Dominant, non-dominant hand, so that they're not limited. And what are the cues? One of the main cue I want you to know is push the ball to the floor. Don't slap at it. Push it. They also talk about push the ball forward when moving, keep the hand on top of the ball, keep your eyes forward. That's another example where your palm should not touch it as well. So push the ball to the floor. Make the ball do what you want it to do. Don't slap at it. Shooting is our fourth fundamental in basketball. You want to get it to where they are consistent and have a proper technique. There's a lot involved with shooting correctly. The cues mentioned here, use the pads of your fingers. We've said that about every skill. Keep the shooting elbow near the body. Many students, that elbow is way out. Your right elbow should be in line with your right big toe. Right elbow in line with your right big toe. That's how close your elbow should be to your body. Shoot through the ball. I call that follow through. Make sure you flick your wrist to where it rolls off of your fingertips. Bend the knees. Use the legs for more force. And release the ball off the fingertips. So I really don't want you to know any cues for shooting, but these are it. The one-hand shot is a type of shooting that is usually a jump shot if you're at a short distance away from the goal. Or I want you to know a one-hand shot is like a set shot if you're at a longer distance away from the goal for the young children. So the one-hand shot. The layup shot is another type of shooting. I want you to know when taking a layup, you're going to the basket and it's either after receiving a pass or if it's at the end of a dribble, you will do a layup. So it's a little short shot and you're heading to the basket. Either you just received a pass or it's at the end of a dribble where you do the 1-2 up. The free throw shot, I want you to know, is a one-hand set shot. And it's taken at the free throw line, usually because of some type of foul. A jump shot, I want you to know, has the same upper body mechanics as your one-hand shot that we talked about earlier, but I want you to know the jump is straight up. It's difficult to do a jump shot. Maybe fifth graders might, if you got a very athletic person or student, they might be able to get it, but I usually wait for that till junior high. But I also want you to know about the jump shot. Because the legs cannot increase the force applied to the ball, the jump shot is difficult for most elementary school children. It is difficult. It's very difficult. I wouldn't even attempt to teach it, even to fifth graders. I would stick to junior high to introduce it. defending or playing defense. You always want your knees bent slightly, like you see the little man here. Your hands up, ready to go in either direction. You don't want to cross your feet when moving because you may tangle up and fall. So knees bent, lowering the center of gravity. But the kids are not going to understand lowering the center of gravity. You know, knees bent is very, very important to be able to move quick in either direction. Stopping can be challenging for the students to be able to be under control. So I want you to know to stop quickly. A player lowers the center of gravity. So what did I just talk about? How do we lower the center of gravity? We bend our knees. That's how you stop quickly. You bend your knees to stop quickly, and you want to make sure both feet break simultaneously whenever you're getting them to stop. But it can be challenging to stop, especially if you're running at a fast pace. Pivoting, I want you to know, is an act that you are going to do as a player to protect the ball by keeping the body between the ball and the defensive player. So you're going to maneuver to where one of your legs, one of your feet is the pivot, and it's going to stay in the same location, and the other leg, the other foot, is going to be moving while you're moving the ball to keep it away from the defense. Pivoting is a very challenging skill to teach. I would introduce it to 5th grade, but don't expect much success. Before we start talking about the instructional procedures, I'd like to talk about feinting, F-E-I-N-T-I-N-G, and it's not where you pass out. Feinting is the term that they're using to talk about faking movement in one direction in order to pass it in another direction would be an example. So I want you to know feinting in basketball is a faking motion in one direction and then moving in another direction. So you could be dribbling, it could be passing where you're dribbling and you do a little stutter step and act like you're going left, but then you take off right, or you fake a pass to the left and you throw to the right. They call that feinting, F-E-I-N-T-I-N-G. So now let's go on to the instructional procedures that they're talking about here. As we said earlier, balls other than basketballs can be used to be successful playing basketball. The skills, you want to practice them individually or in pairs with the playground balls. You can lower the baskets, and you concentrate on the skills and especially do a lot of drills in order to teach the skills in basketball. And then you make up little games or lead-up games in order to play more and get better at the skills. You have your rules, your basic basketball rules for how to put the ball in play. It's usually a jump ball to begin the game, and then you have rotation of out of bounds and such. You have your violations, which is traveling or walking, stepping out of bounds. You have dribbling violations, remaining more than 3 seconds in the lane, things of that nature. You have all kind of different fouls: holding, pushing, hacking, tripping, charging, blocking, unnecessary roughness. To score, you score 2 points on most baskets except a free throw. Unless you have a 3-point goal line, then that's 3 points. Then substitutes or substitution, they are signaled in with the referee's help. On page 619, they talk about basketball drills. So I want you to know these drills that you're going to have your students do, I want you to know they should simulate the actual game situations. But you're going to break up these game situations into drills so that the students can get better at that particular aspect of the game. We did ball handling drills where we went around the body, the different parts of the body, waist, head, triple play. We did the figure eight. You had speed drills. all different types of ball handling drills to help the students. But notice where their eyes are. Look how they're looking up. Remember, that's an emphasis that you want to eventually have the students do, to do these ball handling drills eventually with their eyes up. You have individual dribbling drills listed for you, all different kinds of dribbling drills on page 620 to 621. Then you have group dribbling drills. Here's this shuttle formation dribbling drill. You only need 2 balls, and you have 8 students right here. So the first student is dribbling towards the other lane, the other line, and then getting in the back of that line. That's called shuttle formation, what they're in right now. For shuttle turn back, they would dribble there and then give the ball to the next person and then turn back and come back to the same line. Just depends on what type of drill you're doing. If you were to incorporate passing as well as dribbling, they dribble a ways, then pass, then you might want them to turn back and stay in the same line they started in. Here's dribbling and pivoting drills. Remember I told you pivoting can be a challenging skill to learn. This is supposed to say file and not fire. But anyway, it's a file drill where you have 1 basketball, 4 students waiting in line. The first student dribbles around the cone and then comes back, and then if you want them to pass it to the next one, but they pivot here and then they pass it to the next person. They can be about, they're saying in the book, do they give a destination or how far apart? They really don't say. So you'll have to use a little bit of common sense and maybe start close at first, and then you could always have them dribble a further distance away. So this is an example of a dribble and pivot drill where you're combining 3 skills: dribbling, pivoting, and passing, come to think of it. You have passing drills on page 622, slide circle drill. There's circle star drill in our outline, and then squat split vision drill in our outline. 3-player weave, some people call that the figure 8. You have shooting drills here, the jump shot drill where you come here and then you take the shot, come back around, get the rebound, such. You have offensive and defensive drills on page 624. They give you all kind of ideas. These are all lead-up type of activities. For developmental level 2, you have these basketball activities listed for you, these lead-up activities, circle, guard, and pass on page 625. I want you to know dribble-rama. You can play 2 or more games simultaneously while doing dribble-rama. You have your different levels for dribble-rama, and I like it because the kids are having fun and they're learning how to dribble without looking at their dribble. So the 4 basic fundamentals of basketball should be the focus of your attention for developmental level 2. This picture shows here the captain ball game that they show on page 625. For developmental level 3, the games that they're going to play here will give them plenty of lead-up practice and all of the basketball skills. All of the basketball skills, 5th grade, developmental level 5. This is the court markings for lane basketball. We don't actually have that in our outline. This is very similar to the lane soccer that we have in our outline. Lastly, we have basketball skill tests, these 5 areas that you may want to test their skill as 5th graders. Straight dribble, you just have a marker about 15 yards down the floor and they dribble around that cone or poly spot or whatever it may be, and you're timing them and you give them 2 or 3 tries and take the best time. The figure 8 dribble, we have that in our outline where you put 3, 4 obstacles such as cones, and they have about 5 feet apart, and they have to dribble in and out of the markers. And again, you give them 2 or 3 tries, and you take the best time. The wall pass test, they stand about 5 feet from the wall, and they have 30 seconds to see how many times they can catch the ball. Another student is doing the counting, and you only give them 1 try. Baskets made in 30 seconds. How many baskets can they make within a 30-second time period? And again, another student is counting, marking them down. And then free throws. Count the number of free throws they make out of 10 attempts. The way you can keep score is maybe put an X if it's a made basket, a 0 if it's a missed basket, but they only get 10 tries. So this concludes Chapter 24 on basketball.